So the Stephanie White saga obviously was something that lasted a bit of time. Like, it realistically lasted from probably, well, as soon as they got knocked out of the playoffs, realistically, until, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, when Stephanie White was announced as the coach of the Fever. But it's a mad thing to find out that the Fever, realistically, are paying probably over $1 million a year before her salary. I'm not joking. Let's take a listen to Annie Annie Constable, who is, to be fair, she was the journalist that broke the news. I will say, though, Kelly Kay. Let's not forget Kelly Kay breaking that news early. But she is the journalist who officially broke the news, and let's listen to what she is saying.
Happening. Take us through sort of this reporting process and, how you were able to really put together this story about her move back to Indiana.
Yeah, so honestly, it started because the Sky were looking for a coach, right? So you start contacting your sources about who could be available and who the Sky would even be interested in. And so, the first piece of information I got was just that Stephanie White might not return to the Connecticut Sun.
And that was a weird one because a lot of people, to be fair, a lot of people were talking about that. And I'm pretty sure she said something about, like, basketball not being the main priority and stuff. And everyone kind of put two and two together and was like, she's probably wants to go closer to home. But the Chicago Sky was also definitely would have been an option because they're not too far from each other.
So that was kind of a big question, or I guess I shouldn't say it was a question or even that it was shocking to hear, because I think something we need to start talking about or getting comfortable with is that in the W, just like other sports leagues, if you're great at your job, you can be poached at any time. And that's not shameful.
Yep. To be fair, nobody's been poached. No Leeds coaches have been poached from anywhere, but we've seen the Sporting Lisbon coach being poached by the scum United.
That's not wrong. That's the name of the game, right? Teams want to be successful. We don't have to tiptoe around it. By any means necessary means by any means necessary. And it's okay for women's sports teams to be that competitive. And so when I first heard Stephanie might not return to the Sun, my thought was do the Sky really have a shot at her, right? Because the Sky's history since winning their title has been anything but glamorous and has been...
they weren't bad in 2022.
Anything but top tier. And when you're talking about a coach like Stephanie, she's a top tier coach. So for me, it really started with, again, trying to understand the landscape that included the Sky. And once I started to hear, where Stephanie...
My favorite thing is the Sky fans have spent the last year trying to get her fired. Since she does not, obviously she is a WNBA reporter. And even if you are a Sky reporter or a Chicago sports reporter, look, if you are a reporter for men's basketball, you're going to talk about LeBron James. You talk about the local team and what gets clicks realistically. And because she doesn't despise Caitlin Clark, they've been trying to get her fired for the last year, even though she's actually been one of the better WNBA journalists. She's actually talked basketball. Well, not talked basketball, but she's actually breaking just basketball news and news related to the teams and not nonsense.
Which team Stephanie was talking to, it kind of became clear, okay, this is where she's going to end up, right? She's from Indiana. Family obviously was a huge factor in her decision. And I think the other thing is when you consider her having that last year on her contract in Connecticut, is franchises don't want to be pegged as the team that won't let that's holding someone that doesn't want to be there, right? Because
I will say, a lot of franchises have held someone that doesn't want to be there in sports. If you're paying them, you're paying them.
Because if you have a coach who's expressed a desire, again, I'm just using a coach as an example.
The only thing is with Stephanie White, it's a little bit different because obviously she's wants to move for family reasons. So it's a bit different there, to be fair.
Because we're talking about Stephanie here. If you have any employee who's expressed a desire to be elsewhere and you're not able to either match what they're being offered or create a circumstance where they want to be there, what what purpose does it serve to, prevent them from going and pursuing other opportunities, right? Because I think a lot of times when we're talking about coach, obviously talked with the Sky about it, and they said, go ahead and have these conversations. They were in the know about it. And it doesn't serve anybody.
So obviously she was taking interviews with the Sky. So it wasn't just like I want to go to Indiana. It was, to be fair, I want to be close to home. So the Sky were an option too for her. Obviously you're going to take the Sky. Especially if you're Stephanie White, you're going to take the Fever over the Sky. The Fever are way better.
To prevent those conversations from happening, right? Because I've gotten a lot of questions about that. Well, why would the Sun allow her to go out and talk to other teams? It's like, well, why wouldn't they if she's expressed a desire to potentially be elsewhere? So, yeah, I mean, it started as just an interest, to be closer to home. And then I think once it became clear that there were actually going to be opportunities to
where you have executives that don't allow their coaches to speak to other teams, allowed Stephanie White to talk to other teams. They're making moves. Her Sun contract and Christie Sides' final 2 report that they are going to be paying Stephanie White's final year on her Sun contract and Christie Sides' final 2 years.
That is mad because I think Christie Sides on $500,000 a year. So they basically just said, we are going to burn. I would say Stephanie White's on probably around $500,000 too. I don't think, she's not claiming $1 million a year out of them. There's no way. Apologies. I'm off an hour. I slept an hour last night and then I got to go down the country to coach a game right now. So, yeah, hence why I will sleep in the car on the way down. But, obviously not driving. But, it's very clear that, they mean business. And also, Stephanie White definitely was not a big contract coming out of Vanderbilt. But, they're probably paying Stephanie White $1 million a year. They're probably paying $500K to the Sun. Or they're probably paying they're paying the final year of her contract. They probably paid the Sun to buy her out of her contract. They're probably paying her $1 million a year, and they're probably paying Christie Sides $500,000 a year. They probably spent about $2 million for this 1 year. And I mean, if the team can win 5 more games, it's worth it. I'm not joking. Genuinely, it is worth it if the team can win even 5 more games. But yeah, that is a very, very interesting one. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. A very expensive hire. Do you guys think it's worth it, or do you guys think they should have just saved money and stuck with Sides? For me, the former, definitely a better decision.